at the end for here we're recording. And I will save some time at the end for hands-on practice as well as Q&A. So without further ado, let me share my screen. Should work now. Can everybody see my slides? Great, thank you. And feel free to leave your camera on while I'm going. I like to see faces and I like to see your responses. I know it's a little awkward that we're not in the same room, but thanks to COVID and as I would say, COVID, so co-video meetings, we can actually do this in a semi impersonal style. So that's what I'm trying to achieve here. All right, so first of all, I would like to ask Minshu to launch a poll for me. The first question is, how often do you use ChatGPT or other AI tools? I just wanted to see how much everybody's exposed to this new generation of tools out there. Minshu, can you, oh, here, thank you. Your options are every day, sometimes, rarely, or never. And this includes either for preparing for interpretation work, translation, or just fun. In fact, I have exposed my 2-year-old to ChatGPT. And my husband did not like it, but I thought, hey, let's see how ChatGPT can have a conversation with my 2-year-old. To begin with, it was having a hard time understanding him. But once I was able to explain what he was trying to say, ChatGPT actually did great explaining what Daniel Tiger is to a 2-year-old. All right, let's see. We've got 9 responses in. Okay, we've got 4 out of 9 people who have never used ChatGPT or other AI tools. That's fine. That's why you're here. You're here to learn what it can do for you or what it cannot do for you, right? All right, 2 of us are using it every day. Wow, cool. Okay. And I see we have the second polling question as well. The type of cases you often interpret. Okay, looks like criminal, immigration, and then different kinds of civil cases. Oh, I see. We do have a few colleagues here who also do patent infringement. Great. All right, I think you're going to find a little bit of everything from my, let me share results. Right. I think everybody's going to find a little something from my presentation today, whether it is related to how to use ChatGPT and other AI tools to work, or to have a little fun of your own. So let me tell you a little bit more about myself. So I am a Chinese translator interpreter. My interpretation language is Mandarin into English and English into Mandarin. I do some criminal cases, but right now the majority of cases that I work on are either commercial disputes or patent infringement. I am based in Houston, Texas, and on the bottom right-hand side, when I was creating the PowerPoint, I thought, hey, I'll see what Microsoft AI can help me with the icons. I thought Microsoft was pretty hands-on, or sorry, not hands-on, pretty accurate about the icon for the court interpreter for the ATA certification. And I thought, hey, the last one is actually a little funny because I always thought so highly of myself with my ATA certifications, but I guess it's also, don't take yourself too seriously. Hey, it's just one of the things that we rely on when we work, right? So here's a little tongue sticking out for fun. Now, while I was preparing for this slideshow back in October last year at the AT conference, I was also in the mindset of, I'm going to be starting to teach legal interpretation in our local community college. So I may not refer directly to how to teach legal interpretation with AI tools, but I think you will also find things that are relevant that will helpful if you are an interpreter trainer. And I will also say I have updated quite a bit of the slideshow because, as you know, technology has evolved a lot since last fall. So if you have been to my ATA conference, it's okay. You will find a lot more updates in this slide deck as well. Now, I will talk about how to prepare for legal interpretation with AI tools. However, today is not quite the occasion to discuss in detail how to interpret with AI tools. It is possible, and I think it will be another great topic that I'd be happy to present on, or we are certainly, you're welcome to share your experience as we're into the Q&A session. But today we're mostly talking about preparation. And of course, the information that I will be sharing today with you, and also that I hope you will share with ChatGPT and whatnot, is only publicly available information. I can't stress enough the importance of privacy and data security whenever we upload anything onto the internet. So for that matter, publicly available information. I think those of you who work in legal fields are pretty sensitive about that. And also today I will talk about ChatGPT 4 a lot, which is the paid version. But some of the things you can also achieve with a free OpenAI account or a free Google account. But it is certainly up to you how much you want to use it and how much you like it enough to pay for the subscription, which we'll also talk about more later. All right, so I want you to think about how you usually prepare for a legal assignment, whether it's court, whether it's deposition, whether it's client attorney meetings. Now, these are the things that I typically do. I would obviously read the document. I would, of course, request it if I can get it from the party or the agency or the client, then I would go online. The good thing about it is it will be, if it's online, it's publicly available, right? If it's from the client, you may need to double check or ask whether it is publicly available. And after I read it, I will write down the factual information, right? Names, addresses, numbers. It could be, the defendant's names. It could be whoever that got into a car accident, their address, right? Numbers, or it could be different kinds of numbers, states, damages amounts, patent numbers, right? A lot of numbers there. So I write them down. And if I have an additional time, I would read the claims or even the interrogatories more closely, just so that I understand more about the case. And of course, I would study the terms. This could be, simple terms if you are a novice, right? It could be some legal terms related to this type of case, right? Immigration, you're going to have different terms than, let's say, patent infringement, right? And of course, if it is a more complex case, you will have some more case-specific terminology. For example, the technologies or the inventions that are at issue in a patent infringement case. Now, it does take a lot of time for us to properly prepare for a case, right? Whether it's a big one or a small one, we often spend at least some time to prepare for it if we are given the time in the document. So when I first heard about ChatGPT and how magical it is, I thought, hey, why don't I see what ChatGPT can do for me and how I can make this process less time consuming and, so that I can focus my time on actually studying the things that I need to study, right? Like actually understanding the concepts or reading more into the law, or even just finding more information about the case, as opposed to simply just doing repetitive paperwork, essentially. So I asked ChatGPT, hey, what can you do? Now I picked out 6 of these things that I thought are related or relevant to what we do. Now the first one is information retrieval. So doing searches and summaries. I thought, hey, that's useful, right? Whenever I read when I am searching for certain information, whether it's, like I said, names or numbers and summary. Oh, so maybe that'll cut my time in reading the entire 50-page document. Maybe if I am thrown into a last minute job, maybe I don't necessarily have to read the whole thing, right? That's a thought. Okay. What about automation? Immediately I was thinking, well, I spend a lot of time creating glossaries, right? What if I can automate the process of creating glossaries? It's very repetitive, but it's also not a hard task for a machine. Translation. Now we'll talk a little bit about translation. But translation with AI tools is yet another topic. And I think plenty of colleagues have talked about it out there. So I won't spend too much time on it. But we will touch upon that. And learning and education, right? How do we understand complex concepts? We Google, sure, we read up the encyclopedia, we read, perhaps we can find things in a dictionary, but how can we use ChatGPT to expedite that process and maybe even better help us organize all the information we receive? Oops. All right. And last two things that ChatGPT is good at, I won't get too much into today, but I do want you to read them, think about them, and maybe perhaps try them as you are exploring ChatGPT yourself. All right. So first of all, information retrieval. That is searching for information. Now, these are the two, I would say, large categories of information that I typically search within a document, right? Whether it's a complaint or petition. And so for ChatGPT 3, it is a pretty simple process. You just upload the PDF document. I'm sorry, ChatGPT 4 is a pretty simple process. Now, ChatGPT 3, you do have to copy and paste, but ChatGPT 4, you can actually upload the PDF and give it a prompt. So for those of you who are new to ChatGPT, so on the top left corner, you see TL, that's my name, Tian Lu. So essentially what I do is I give instructions to ChatGPT, right? That's my prompt. And I ask ChatGPT to perform a certain task or tasks in my prompt. So here I ask it to create a column, a table, and then search for the information that I want from this PDF. That is the names of the party, right? Are they plaintiff? Are they defendant? And their position or title if it is individual with the company. And so very quickly, I get a response from ChatGPT. Now, I do notice something is missing here, right? So Su Yu Huang and Zhang Zhenxiang, or Zhenxiang Zhang, these names are affiliated with certain companies. However, it did not appear in the original response from ChatGPT, right? Because I see limited partnership and I see corporation. So I thought, hey, let me ask a clarifying question. So I said, check again, right? I'm pretty sure the petition mentions the names of the companies, right? That as we are interpreters working in the legal field, if it's a decently drafted petition, it should have information like that. So I simply asked to check again. Okay, very quickly. ChatGPT very politely apologized for the oversight and created an updated table. Okay, I think that answered my question. And I do notice though, if I change the prompt a little bit, so you see the original prompt was list in the first column. You see at the very end of the first line, list in the first column. So I had no problem here. However, if I change one word in the prompt, I said extract the personal name. There, I got into a little issue with ChatGPT because apparently, according to the OpenAI use case policy, it cannot extract personal names, which I can understand, right? You don't want to feed, well, I guess what they don't want you to do is to feed a lot of information just so that you can collect and extract a lot of personal information, names and maybe some other identifiable information there. So I get it. So list is apparently a better word than to extract. Now, when it comes to company names and law firms and attorneys, extract seems to be an okay word. So I'm also, in another prompt, I'm asking ChatGPT to create a table of the names of the parties as well as the attorneys representing them. Now, this is something I do, especially for cases involving a lot of attorneys or multiple, respondents, defendants, or plaintiffs. For one, obviously, it helps me keep track of the information that I need in interpretation, but also I can highlight the names of the attorneys if I meet them at a deposition or in court. So, one, it helps me to remember their names, right? It's always good for business relations if you remember their names, but also I will know, hey, if, let's say I'm hired by the firm, if somebody's not paying my invoices, then I know who to go after. Right? So that's why I'm collecting these information to keep them on my cheat sheet. Now, here I want you to see what Gemini can do. So Gemini, as some of you might know, is Google's AI tool, which formerly was known as Bard, but they have since updated it, I think just the last couple weeks, and now it is Gemini. It can do some pretty amazing things, interpretation preparation aside. So I thought, hey, let me test it also for my purpose of preparing for a legal interpretation assignment. Now, Gemini is a little interesting in the sense that you can see for ChatGPT, you can actually upload PDF documents, right? So you can upload a document. Now I will say if it's an image, you do need to go run OCR first so that you have a text layer on top of it. But you can at least upload a document. Whereas Gemini cannot. So you have to copy and paste the text of a PDF document if you wanted to read a PDF document. Now, the problem is there is a limit on the token or the number of characters that you can input into the chat box. So that means roughly, if you have a document of more than 10 pages or so, then it's not going to be able to review the entire document all at once. So you have to break it into bits and pieces. So that is one limiting factor. However, Gemini also has its own advantages compared to ChatGPT. So I will also go into that in a little bit. But so far, in terms of the task at hand, asking the tools to give me names, ChatGPT has done a decent job, as you've seen here. So let's see what Gemini can do. So what I noticed is, in addition to, let me see if I can do the annotate. There we go. So in addition to the names that, as you can see here, the defendant's name in Chinese, just like ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT has also done the same, given me the names in Chinese here. And this is because these names are actually mentioned in the complaint. So that's why ChatGPT has it. So in addition to that, I noticed Gemini actually provided an additional translation of the name of the plaintiff, which made me wonder, did ChatGPT miss it? Or did Google or Gemini did a Google search and provided this translation without me asking, right? Because I gave them essentially the same prompt. So that got me curious. But I also knew through my own independent research that this is actually not the correct translation of the plaintiff's name. So if you read Chinese, you'll see the corresponding words here are 宁德, right? So that appears in the English name. And 新能源 is Amperex. Technology is 科技股份 Limited 有限公司. So the translation that Gemini provided actually has an additional word 时代 or contemporary or era. So with that bit of information in my head, but also, my curiosity, I asked, well, here we go. I asked, check again for the translation of Ningde Empress Technology Limited. So this is the, if you read from the bottom to top, you'll see these are the additional prompts that I provided for Gemini to perform a fact checking, essentially, task. So I asked check again. And it kept telling me I got the right translation. So then I asked the question in a different way. What is the official English name for, the translation you provided to me? It actually found out it is not the same company. It is a different yet very similarly named company. So whenever you're in doubt, double check, ask clarifying questions. That is, I would say, if you don't remember anything from today's webinar, that should be your number one takeaway. Always be double checking. Now, AI tools are useful, but they are limited in terms of, one, the kind of information they're trained with, two, the information that is available on the internet that, may or may not be true, and three, they may be confused themselves, right? Because of whatever reason. So always be double checking whenever you're in doubt. So turns out it's not the same company, right? This is my question. But Gemini doesn't seem as polite as GPT. It looks like what Gemini decided to do is to say, no, this has nothing to do with me. I'm not capable of understanding or responding. So this is something that I've noticed with Gemini repeatedly, unfortunately. I don't know if this is an issue with the training or if it's, just the capability is limited somehow, or maybe it has more of a character. I don't know. But I have noticed even in the repeated attempts and prompts that I give to Gemini, and Gemini itself can oftentimes generate several responses and for you to check, which one do you prefer. But I come across this message a lot. I cannot assist you with that. So this is one area I would say that Gemini is not as useful or not as helpful if we want to save time in our preparation compared to ChatGPT. So now let's move on to searching for a different kind of information, dates, amounts, right? Any kind of numbers. So here I set ChatGPT for a simple, I think 5-page, maybe 7-page petition. And so I simply asked it to extract the important dates and explain their significance. Pretty decent job here. Now, I am curious though, what agreement and how much was the payment, right? So I asked again, of another prompt. Please add to the table the amount of payment and the name of the agreement. So it got me the amount, which is great. I didn't have to search the document for it myself. But it says the name of the agreement is not specified in the document. Huh, that's a little odd, don't you think? If it's a petition, it should have at least some sort of a name for the agreement. Or maybe it's just the agreement, capital T, capital A. So I have to ask when in doubt. So here, instead of me asking for questions or thinking how to ask questions, I actually asked ChatGPT, if you were me, how would you ask the question? So I said, based on the response of what you just said, not specified, suggest 2 to 3 verifying questions that could identify inaccuracies in the response, if any. So I'm prompting ChatGPT to double check its own answer by first generating some questions to help me double check. So these are the 3 questions that ChatGPT thought are worth asking. So then I proceeded to ask each of the questions that it suggested. And turns out the answer was no, it's just the agreement. For all the questions I asked, all 3 questions, the answer was pretty much the same. It's just the agreement. Now, I still don't want to believe wholeheartedly, right? Since I am a human and I am aware of the limitations of ChatGPT. So I ended up doing a little bit of a manual search. Turns out in a footnote in a document, it does mention an ODM agreement. Now, I think personally, I don't think it's very well written petition to begin with. Maybe, well, I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but maybe it will be referenced, however, sometime in the case. So I still wrote it down. But it is in fact referred to as the agreement throughout the petition. So sometimes I would say, you know, when in doubt, ask questions, ask this kind of chain of verification questions if you are still in doubt. And just don't forget your common sense, right? If you need to double check your original PDF documents, definitely do it, right? I'm sure a lot of us here are experienced interpreters. Trust your instinct, trust your gut. What kind of information is usually contained in this kind of document? Maybe just double check it instead of simply relying on ChatGPT. All right. Now, before I move on to patents, or searching for information on patents, any quick clarifying questions so far? Am I going too fast, too slow? Just a little feedback. We're good.
I have a question, Tianlu.
Yes.
So I noticed for one prompt, you specifically told the ChatGPT to turn off web browsing. Do you recommend we do it all the time?
Oh, I see. Yes. I would actually, sorry, that was, I think that is sort of a previous version of ChatGPT 4 that you can turn on or off. The current ChatGPT 4 version doesn't actually give you the option of turning it on or off. In fact, it will cite the reference if it does refer to anything on the internet. So you can actually double check it if you want to. I think that's probably in response to the complaint from a lot of people of the earlier generations of ChatGPT that it hallucinates a lot, that it doesn't actually rely on information out there on the internet, even though it is available. So long story short, you don't have to worry about it now if you are using the ChatGPT 4 version. And actually do check the source if it does search for, the internet for any information.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Anything else? Okay, then I will move on. So for those of you who also work in patent cases, here comes the fun part. And hopefully it won't be too boring for those of you who don't work on patents, but we'll go through it together. All right, so if you've been to my ATA 64 presentation, you might remember that with an earlier generation or earlier iteration of GPT-4, it was really difficult to search for patent information in a long complaint, right? So patent cases, oftentimes the complaints are a lot longer. There's a lot more information. The information is very densely drafted. So for ChatGPT 4 back then, back in last fall, it was pretty much useless in terms of preparing for patent infringement cases. So this is what happened last fall after fighting and arguing, I would say, with ChatGPT for an hour. I still didn't get the simple information that I wanted, right? Names of the patent, which definitely should be in the complaint. And somehow it ended up just starting to talk about things it was interested as opposed to what I was asking. I don't know where the Douglas fir came in from the prompt, but I would say that's definitely a sign of hallucination if I were a ChatGPT doctor. However, good news is as of yesterday, I double checked again, ChatGPT 4 is a lot better. So not only can it quickly identify the information that I want from the complaint, you see the titles here are definitely listed, right? It can even give me lots of information on the dates that I want. Obviously got the numbers correct. However, it did not, for whatever reason, perform a very thorough search. So if you've read a patent infringement complaint, you would know, right? The number of counts would be associated with a different number of patents in the complaint. So at a quick glance, I saw, well, there are 8 different counts, so there must be 8 different different patents. However, I only counted 7. Now this is not a full list, but I only counted, actually I only counted 6, I think, in the first time. So I said, check again. Are there any other patents mentioned that are missing here? If so, add them to the table. So that is one nice thing about ChatGPT is you can ask it to expand the table, right, as you continue. Now I will say the table generation does take a lot more time, or a little more time for ChatGPT than Gemini, which I think you will notice when you try it yourself in a little bit. So check again. Are there other patents mentioned? Now, eventually, after a few more prompts, ChatGPT was able to give me a full list of 8. So after this prompt right here, it gave me 7, and I said check again. Basically, just copy and pasted the same prompt, and eventually it got me the 8 that I needed. Whereas for Gemini, I noticed, well, number one, like I said, the table was created very fast. However, these titles didn't seem like the ones that I saw on the results from ChatGPT. I will give you a side-by-side review in a little bit. But also I noticed all of the inventors are the same. So the list goes on. If you go, if you read on all of the 8 patents, they have the exact identical 2 inventors. Again, common sense as a court interpreter. Is that really the case? So let me do a little bit of search on my own into the PDF document. Turns out, I hope this is not too small to see. Turns out, yes, Gemini was able to create or to extract all 8 patents and their numbers at the first try. The titles, however, are completely wrong. Completely. Not one of them was correct. So on the left, you see ChatGPT, which I checked against the PDF document I had, has the correct title. But Gemini did not have any of them correct. And in fact, the names of the inventors were not mentioned in the complaint. Yet Gemini decided we're going to assign some random names for the inventors, and we're going to assign some random titles for the patent. And it completely failed in giving me the relevant dates. So I only have a hypothesis what happened here, which is I think Gemini has a very severe case of hallucination here. I'm not sure where it got the information. It's not even available on Google Patents, right? If it had searched its own database, it probably would not have gotten here. But I think also it's all because of the token list. Because if you try to copy and paste a large document, right, into the chat, there is a limit. And I believe the more chat you create, or if you don't have obviously the entire document, then Gemini is not going to get all the information. But instead of telling me that it doesn't have the entire information it needs, it simply made up things, which is a typical problem with earlier iterations of ChatGPT. However, ChatGPT has gotten a lot better in this way, whereas Gemini, being sort of the new kid on the block, clearly has a lot more to work on. So I would say avoid Gemini if you are preparing for a patent infringement case, specifically for this task, that is getting a list of the patents. We obviously want to get the patents correct. All right, so a different kind of information retrieval, summaries. I can provide concise summaries of complex topics according to ChatGPT. Well, let's see what it means by concise and complex. So here I'm going to ask both ChatGPT and Gemini to perform 2 different tasks. One is to help me understand the allegations in a complaint or in a petition. And next is to summarize the patent. All right, let's see how they do for the first one, summarizing the petition. And I like to give it a prompt to limit the answer to 10 sentences, because I always find it helpful to ask further questions if I need more information, especially if you're preparing for a job in a crunch. So this is what ChatGPT 3 or 3.5, the free version, gave me. So it did a decent job, I would say, of summarizing the petition. However, I actually prefer the Gemini version of the summary. I'll also give you a little time to read. To me, the Gemini version is more succinct. It's easier to read. Again, if you're just trying to get a lot of information in a short amount of time. It also reorganizes the petition so that even a lay person can read and understand it, right? I think this is especially helpful as an initial step when you're getting into a case like this. Now, I also noticed as I was typing this prompt, right? I was typing summarize the petition. And before I finished the sentence, summarize the petition, Gemini on its own decided or figured out what I wanted it to do. So as I was typing summarize the petition, it actually started generating this whole, I would say, paragraphs and paragraphs of a paragraph and paragraphs of summary of this petition, which was actually pretty helpful because I was going to ask it, right, to give me information about the plaintiff, about the defendant, about the claims, about the facts, and without me asking, it did it for me. So my takeaway from this is if you are preparing for a simple case, whether it's criminal, civil, family, whatnot, if it's not a long PDF document that you have to process, simply copy and paste the text onto Gemini and ask for a summary. And voila, you basically have all the information you need. Now, of course, double check, always double check if you are in doubt. But I say Gemini actually does a pretty good job in taking a first cut for any kind of preparation when it's a simple case. All right, and let's try a patent case. All right. And same thing, I asked for no more than 10 sentences. Gemini did a decent job. And GPT-4 as well. Sentences are, again, a little longer, more complex, but it does do a pretty good summary of the case. Now, obviously, for a patent case, I wouldn't stop here, right? I wouldn't simply read the summary and go on and interpret. But again, it gives us a very good start into getting an overview of what's going on here. Now, again, personally, for patent case, I would prefer the Gemini summary a little more, just so that it's makes things a lot easier for me to bite into if this is my first bite. Okay. All right, let's talk about another task, automation. Automating repetitive tasks. So what could that mean? Terminology extraction and organization. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to create a table and extract the terms. Now, this all came up very quickly. However, if you are a fellow Chinese interpreter, you might notice the word discovery here is translated as Columbus discovering America, not so much discovery in a legal sense, right? So that means even with the context, right, the context of the PDF document, the petition, the complaint, it was still not smart enough to discover the correct translation given that context. So this is something I always say if you are an interpreter trainer or if you are asking your student to perform this task with the help of ChatGPT, is don't throw away your dictionary, right? Don't forget the traditional ways of verifying a term, whether it's through the internet or through asking a colleague or looking into a dictionary. Make sure if you have a word of multiple meanings, right? Double check. And now you do notice there are words in the first table, such as plaintiff, a defendant, that I already know, right, as a seasoned or a semi-seasoned interpreter. So I don't really need words like that to be in my glossary. So I can further limit the information to factual background. Okay, so give me the terms from the factual background section. And here I get more case-specific information, terminology here. These at a quick glance look pretty okay to me. Now I probably will double check, what pupil transportation means in this context. Does it mean transporting students, or does it actually mean pupil as in our eye? Because I know this is a case related to the manufacturer of devices related to seeing, right? So pupil may not be elementary school student here. So again, when in doubt, double check. Now let's try with a patent infringement case. Now, a nice thing about patent infringement is because the terms are often so specific, so technical, that you don't get in words like discovery or pupil, right? So here, the translation that it provides actually was pretty good, and also it did a decent job extracting the term from the complaint. Now, however, you still may come across words like current, which here we're talking about electrical current, so we're talking about batteries, as opposed to currently, as in time. So, again, it's not 100%, and you can even say, right, in your prompt, all the terms related to lithium ion battery, right? So the context is very specific in addition to the document. It still may generate translations that are not the correct ones. So just be mindful of that. However, luckily, it happens oftentimes with, well, I wouldn't say oftentimes, but it doesn't happen as much, especially like I said, with the more technical terms. So it is, again, a good start. All right. Now, this is what Gemini can do. Again, factual background gives you a list of summary. Now, I will say one nice thing about Gemini is that if you use Google Suite or Google Drive, you do have this one-click export to Google Sheets function. So instead of copying and pasting the terms, and you may need to reformat somehow, you can simply click export to sheet, and a very nice Google Sheet will be generated directly from your browser. And you can go on from there to, add or modify or create additional terms in your glossary. So that is one nice thing about Google or Gemini. Now, term organization. So sometimes outside of your PDF document, you may also want to look up terminology on the specific topic elsewhere on the internet, right? For example, I was looking up the terms related to patent filings in China because one particular case that I was working on dealt with cases in both the US and China. So for the Chinese equivalent of the USPTO or the Chinese PTO, they have their own set of terms. So I found a pretty reliable source on the internet, but it is in simple text format, right? So just one line English, one line Chinese. But what I want is I wanted to give me essentially a two-column table, right? Like I had earlier, so I can simply copy and paste onto the table already had. Now, surprisingly, ChatGPT, even though it says it's good at automating simple repetitive tasks, failed miserably. You can see here 4 out of 4. That means I have asked it 4 different ways or asked it to regenerate the answer 4 different times. In fact, I did more after this. And it kept failing and failing. However, Gemini did it perfectly the first go. I simply put the terms in a 2-column table, Chinese on the left, English on the right. Voila. And I did not take a screenshot of the entire table here, but of course, on the very bottom right, you will see the same export to sheet button. So again, simple click, that'll get you to a sheet, and then you can move the things around or, merge this new sheet with your existing glossary. So I would say for this task of creating and organizing glossary, Gemini is the gem. All right, so let's take a quick look of ChatGPT and Gemini, what they're good for. So both of them can review PDF documents. However, because for Gemini, you cannot, both of them can process PDF, information on PDF. However, because Gemini cannot actually allow you to upload a full document, it does have its limit, right? You have to paste the text. You have to break up a document into multiple chats. So that is one major limit if you are dealing with a large PDF document. Now, in terms of extracting names, I decided to award ChatGPT 2 points because it did not create any confusion with regard to the translation of the name. It simply did not provide me a translation, which is appropriate, right? If I wanted it, I can look it up or I can ask to translate. Whereas Gemini included that name, remember the Ning De contemporary empress, in the answer that I was given. Now, if I hadn't read the complaint to begin with, I might have taken it just on its face value because I did not really have much doubt, right? So for that confusion, I would give it 1, maybe even 0 points, depending on how big of an issue it is. Now, what you did not see is the speed at which both of these tools generated the answers. I will say overall, Gemini is very fast. So like I said earlier, it guessed my prompt before I finished it, right? And very quickly, it was able to generate the answer that I wanted. It's also very fast at creating tables, much faster than ChatGPT. So there I gave Gemini 2 points. Now, patents, 0 point for Gemini. We don't like hallucination. We don't need it at all. We want accurate, faithful information. And whereas for summarizing the complaint, this is more of a personal favorite. Gemini, I do prefer Gemini's answer. It is more succinct and to the point on top of being fast. So overall, I would say, ChatGPT is a pretty has a pretty comprehensive tool set or skill set in terms of helping me preparing for a case, especially if it is a more complex case. But I think Gemini is winning if what you normally deal with are, documents that are that's fewer than 10 pages, right? Or cases that don't involve patents. I think Gemini is perfectly fine for that. And I would also add that in terms of pricing, now both OpenAI and Google have free versions of GPT and Gemini. So that's GPT 3, 3.5, or the Gemini, I think they call it Gemini Basic, if I'm not mistaken. But they are limited in terms of their capability and also in terms of just the messages that you can send or the prompts you can send. So if but both of them offer free trials, right? So I would say try them. If you like them both, pay for them both if money's no issue. But in terms of their paid version, they pretty much are the same. It's, $20 about I think it's 20 plus tags basically. So if you feel like one is enough, take your pick. Right now, I don't see a lot of differences other than what I talked about. And they are certainly capable of doing things that are very similar. But that's not, I'm gonna say this is not the end of my word, right? Because obviously they're both evolving. And if you're following the news, just as of 2 days ago, OpenAI released their yet another video processing model called Sora, which essentially can create videos based on your prompts. So that is a lot of fun to play with. Probably not helpful for interpreting or preparing for interpretation, but it is a lot of fun to play with. So if you do enjoy, benefits outside of the simple text processing, information retrieval, or searching, then maybe ChatGPT is worth the money, or more worth the money, because you do get to do more with it. Also, you probably have heard of DALL-E, which is their image processing model as well. I see a hand from Su Yu. Feel free to turn on your mic. Yes.
Are you asking me, Sue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
My question was in terms of say summarizing, which means that when you upload the document, the answers will be there. It's just the ChatGPT or the Gemini is going to extract the summary and present it. So it's all within there. Did you make a comparison? I must have missed it because I was looking at other things. Did you make a comparison and which one does a better job at it?
Yes. So I did not do a side by side, but let's see. Yeah, so here this one is ChatGPT on a patent case. And this one is Gemini on a patent case. And I know I'm not giving you a lot of time to read both of them, but this is something you can certainly play with when we were doing the at the end of the presentation. Yeah. And obviously you can do it with other types of complaint interpretations as well. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move on. I'm sure you are very eager to try it out if you haven't already. But we're almost there. All right. So one more thing one more word on this. You might have noticed I did not include Copilot by Microsoft in this chart. The biggest complaint, which basically is the deal breaker for me, is that Copilot does not only it doesn't review PDF documents, right? You cannot upload it, but there is a 2,000 character limit on how much text you can post. So for me, that's just not worth the trouble if I have to paste multiple, break down a PDF into multiple chats every time when I have to ask it to review the document. So I decided Copilot is not quite the right tool for me in terms of processing documents. However, it is still capable of performing some of the other functions that ChatGPT and Gemini are capable of, which I will point to towards the end, back to the 6 points table there. All right, so just to reiterate, when in doubt, double check. Right, we talked about the verifying questions, the chain of verification with GPT, and for Google or Gemini, you will also see for each of the answers you are given, there is a Google icon on the bottom here. It's blocked here because there's a pop-up here. So essentially, if you click on that icon, you'll see this message. Basically, you can ask Google to do a self-Google search of the answer. And if you see the highlighted green or orange here, if you click on the down arrow, you'll see the source of Google's source. And if it's orange, it simply means it did not find the relevant information on the internet. Now, I will say for this particular task, right, summarizing the complaint, the checking or the verification is not super important for me because these two lines are obviously information already contained in the complaint. But for certain other tasks, such as trying to learn and understand a technology or trying to find out more about a particular company, right? The additional Google search may actually be helpful. And this is one nice thing that it's built in that ChatGPT doesn't, right? So this, another point to Google, if you will. All right, I won't talk too much about the learning education part because I'm sure there are, a lot of times it's actually simpler to simply do a search when you are trying to learn a concept. However, I will say if you are interested, these AI tools can be, again, a very good starting point to help understand concepts that are complex. So again, going back to our patent case, right after I asked the ChatGPT to provide a list of glossary here, I thought, hey, why don't we get some definitions too? The definitions may not be in the patent, may not be in the complaint, and oftentimes they're not, but they should be, industry standard or at least sort of general understanding by people in the industry what they are. So I simply asked it to provide or to update a table, right, that I already have of the first two columns, update a table with the definitions in English and provide a Chinese translation. And there I have a little study sheet that I can work on as I'm preparing or after I read the complaint, right? These are oftentimes the things that I highlight as I'm reading the complaint, and then I would have to look them up individually. But here, with one click or with one sentence, I have them handy. Now, again, I will point out to you that current selector is still translated as now selector in Chinese. So again, it still has its limit on translation. Now, coming back to the things that ChatGPT says it's good at. We've talked about searching, summarizing, automating, translating, okay, explaining. Now, we can also ask ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot to provide resources or guidance to prepare for a complex case, right? What are the books that I can read? Are there good videos that I can watch? And we can also ask ChatGPT or Google, which both have the audio function, to practice the terms with us. How do we do that? Well, simply, provided with a summary, with a glossary, and on your phone, on the ChatGPT phone app, you can have it play the audio of the text and have ChatGPT in different personas to practice the terms with you. You can even ask ChatGPT to generate a conversation, let's say between an attorney and a client on the topic of personal injury, right? Simulate a conversation, and we can actually practice interpretation that way. You can even provide additional terms to ChatGPT to practice that conversation. And I won't go into, like I said, I won't go into 5 and 6 today, but again, if you feel like you're adventurous and you want to work smarter, not harder, right? Or find more interesting ways to prepare for your interpretation assignment, I would definitely recommend to look into 5 and 6, how ChatGPT can do for you. Now, Google also can do similar thing, but the nice thing about Google is you don't actually have to use the phone app. You do have the audio button on your browser. So if you have the Gemini version, you can simply practice number 6, practice with a conversational partner on Google browser as well. Okay, so I would say for now, again, technology is always evolving. For now, my conclusion is the AI tools can do a pretty decent job with simple summaries. Automation, pretty okay. Simple searches, I would give a 4-star. Now for complex searches, especially when it comes to longer documents, I don't think they're quite there yet in terms of just getting the job done, right? With simple prompt, getting a reliable answer. However, I would say maybe in a month, maybe in 2 months, maybe before the end of the year, things might change. So I would say keep trying these tools with every case that you are encountering and just see how it evolves, what it's good at, what it's bad at, and don't be afraid of using it. And maybe at first it will take a little more time than how long you normally take to prepare, but do trust me, it will get you to work smarter, not harder eventually. And overall, I would say don't be afraid of AI. We're not in competition with AI. We're in competition with those who are using it better than we do. And that is the key message for me when I presented this session at the ATA conference, and another reason why I'm presenting it to you today is that don't be afraid of it. You know, I wouldn't be pessimistic, especially if you are a legal interpreter. I'm sure you know, as well as I do, how much accuracy is emphasized, how much privacy and confidentiality is emphasized in the legal setting. So even if I would say conference interpreters, if there are any out here, may be afraid of AI and the competition from AI. I would say as legal interpreters, we're still ways away from being replaced. And I think until then, if we can master the tool, just like how translators have mastered using machine translation and CAT tools to help us increase our productivity, interpreters, especially legal interpreters, can do it too by using AI tools. And now let's see, what do you want to do? So this is the time for us to see how we're doing. We've got about 17 minutes till 3:30. So why don't we take about 10 minutes? You can pull up your own PDF document. It would be great if this is a case that you recently worked on or a case you are preparing for, or you can simply use my documents. I'm going to upload to in the chat box for you to work on. And just simply play with it. If you don't have a ChatGPT or OpenAI account or a Gemini account, go ahead and set it up. And that would be at least the start of your journey today. So I will upload 2 of the petitions. There are cases that I referenced earlier already. The first one is this is the first one. The first one is a simple commercial dispute. And the next one is going to be a patent case.
And excuse me, and how do we upload it to, how do we start? How would this set up at GDP, chat
Ah.
GDP?
So if you are, if you don't have an account yet, go ahead and so if you type in OpenAI, okay, so OpenAI is the company that
Mhm.
created ChatGPT, and you can click try ChatGPT and register for an account. Here because we already have an account.
Can you please go back?
OpenAI. I can put it in the
That's not the
chat.
one that opened for me. Yeah. Okay.
But we won't be able to upload any document if we are not using the paid AI, right? ChatGPT 4 has to
Correct.
be paid.
Correct. But you do have the option of a trial, a free trial. I think ChatGPT is a 1 month, Gemini is 2 month free trial. So go ahead and try it, see if you like it. Yeah. But even with the free version of GPT 3.5, you can still copy and paste the text. So, you know, it's a little less convenient. It also has some limits on what it can do. But in terms of you know, simple summaries or extractions, 3.5 is decent. Then Gemini. So Gemini is the Gemini DeepMind. If you simply Google Gemini, you may end up with a different non-Google related Gemini. The Gemini link. Here's the other link. Okay.
Now it
These
wants
are
to know
all.
my birthday.
I think probably just wants to know that you're 18 years old or older. So if you don't want it to give it a real one, it's fine.
Is it like a free, what we just opened? Is it like a free trial, or it doesn't say anything about any kind of payment or any kind of plan? It just says
That's probably
ChatGPT.
the free
Ask.
version then. It's the 3.5. That's the free version that you don't have to pay anything.
Okay, let's go.
You see on the top left corner whether it says GPT 3.5 or 4.
3.5.
Okay. Well, you can certainly use 3.5 to give it a try first. It does have a lot of the capability, but you can also set up a free trial. If you go to the bottom, I can change my screen again.
And how do I upload it? It says
So if you want to upload a
message.
PDF, you do need to upgrade your account. So if you go to the
Okay.
bottom left
Mm.
and click on setting, or sorry, my plan, you should see this plus plan available for you to purchase or to try.
I'm not seeing anything about my plan. Oh. So settings, okay, upgrade plan, okay.
Make sure you're getting a 1 month free as opposed to straight out purchasing it.
That isn't an option. It just says free or plus $20 a month and then team 25 per month. There's no
Yeah,
option try
plus
for free.
I see. Then let's do. Maybe we'll get out of the. Hold on, for you. You see, sort of towards the middle on the left, there's a try on ChatGPT Plus. Is anybody else having the same issue? Maybe we can help out Jenya.
I just play around with the 3.5 so far. Just copy some, the information from the document you shared, and then just ask ChatGPT 3.5 to summarize, make a table, and ask some, Chinese translation for certain terms. So far, so good.
Did you paste it to message ChatGPT?
Yes, I pasted.
Okay, so
Not the
you
whole entire
pasted-
document, just
right,
first two
right.
section. Yeah.
Okay, let's try that. So just interpreted that passages to you, right?
I asked it to summarize in a few sentences first, and then second, and second prompt I asked it to create a table.
Where did you write that command or request?
I read the command first and then paste.
Okay.
And then paste them.
I see. Well, that's cool.
And Tianlu, if you could, I think there are a few questions in chat box. If you could take a look, see if there are any questions that you can answer. Some of, we shared, but there are a couple questions in there.
Thank you. I did not see the questions at all. Thank you for that. Oh. Okay, so Laya, is that how you pronounce your name? Sue asked a question about preparation materials. A lot of times depositions don't give out the details except for the general information, much less court proceedings. Actually, I think may depend, well, obviously it depends on the state, even district, within a state. But for a lot of the cases that I work on the state level, like the filings are available online. You can actually search for the docket on the court clerk's website. So if you have the case information, whether it's the number or the party names, you should be able to find, most likely than not, I can't say 100%, but most likely than not, you can find information on the internet or online that is publicly available. And if it's a federal case, I was going to show you after y'all try this, but there is a great website, not Pacer. There's another great website, much better than Pacer, that you can access all of the federal cases. Again, which I will show you in a little bit. I'm very excited about it. But you know, once you have the PDFs, a lot of times they may be scanned. In other words, they're not text editable PDFs. So you do need to do an extra OCR recognition in order to feed them to Gemini or GPT 3.5, or to upload it to GPT-4. I hope that answers your question.
So to get GTP, you go to OpenAI. What about Gemini?
Gemini is on Google, so
just Google Gemini.
yeah, or you can find, I just sent the link in the chat box. And then see these comments on Bing's AI. Yes, Bing's AI is Copilot. They've also renamed it. I know it's a little confusing with all the names throwing around. But Bing is by Microsoft, which now is Copilot. So if you have a PC, you'll see now on your bottom, you know, where the Windows icon is, you may see Copilot's icon. Also, if you use the Microsoft Edge browser, you will also see Copilot just hanging conveniently for you to use. It does help when you're looking for answers, you know, simple answers, you know, not related to processing PDF documents. It's good. It actually can be very helpful, and it is free, or at least, you know, the version on your browser is free, and it's right there. So it's very handy to use.
Which one is that? DeepMind?
That's Copilot.
Copilot.
Copilot, formerly known as Bing.
Oh, Bing. Okay.
Yeah. Or I guess Bing is the search, but you know, formerly known as Bing AI. You know, Bing's AI. Copilot. But since you can't, like I said, you can only prompt it 2,000 characters, it's not useful so much for processing documents.
So in OpenAI, in that chat GPT 3.5, I ask a question and paste a little abstract from the document that you provided, and it gives me an answer, but then it gives me a separate paragraph that supposedly it says you, like as if I typed it in, which I didn't. Are you familiar with that?
I'm
this
not sure what
happening?
you're referring to with the I paragraph. Maybe you can read it, or maybe share your screen.
Oh yeah, I'd like. Yeah, I'll be happy to share a screen. Can I?
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
assign you to co-host. That should. Okay.
Denoting they can politely apologize and keep
Oh,
hallucinating.
so-
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, here. Like, see for instance, I can you see that?
Yes.
like that is what I typed, summarizing brief. And then it gave me like something that I never typed in.
I think this is what
Oh.
you copied and pasted, right?
I see that. Yeah, that might be it. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is
That might
formatted
be
like
it.
it's a chat or message
Okay.
messages.
So that copied what I pasted. Okay. All right. Got you. Thanks.
Okay, a great question from SP interpreter, I guess Spanish interpreter, or Patty V. I have not used these tools, however, as I hear your presentation, I wonder if in the end, the ratio of valid information to time used to check accuracy is still worth it. I would say it's still worth it. Now, I would be careful if you're a trainer and you're teaching your students who knows very little about interpretation in a legal setting, right? I wouldn't say, just this is all you need to do. No need to read the materials at all. But I think common sense right now, at least with the types of problems that I've noticed on all these platforms, is that it's easily recognizable. An equivalent would be when you're doing machine translation post editing, if you do translate, is that you'll notice a lot of times the errors are often things that you can easily recognize because maybe it's confusing, or because maybe the term originally has another meaning, or because of some hallucination. Now hallucination is a little trickier, but for a lot of the, I would say a lot of the problems with accuracy, your common sense will go a long way. So I would say still it's worth it, but just make sure to double check whenever you're in doubt. Yeah. Overall, it does save time, because it does free me from doing sort of the repetitive tasks, or it can give me, in terms of summary, right? Summaries are pretty accurate. I haven't seen too much problem other than, the very early, or the earlier iteration of GPT-4. I see another hint. Yes, Sue?
Yeah, thank you. Tagalog or Filipino is a low resource language. You probably already know that. Chinese is a high resource language, as well as Spanish and all that. So basically, well, when you've been doing legal interpretation or translation, well, you would easily see the red flag, like the word for discovery is wrong, the word for, I've written it down, I forgot what it is. But when you're not, you could get into the trap, as you said. If you're a student, uh it could easily make you use the wrong word, and then you lose your job. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, what would you suggest if somebody like me is trying to use it, and I know that I can use it for certain things, like, what is the word for this again? And then I ask ChatGPT and it would give me oh yeah, that's right, that's the correct word for it. But if it's something that it doesn't know, then it doesn't know. So how would you, and also I was wondering if in your language, Chinese, which is the same all across the board, right? It's not the dialect, it's the written thing. Is that correct? That's for translation. But what if it is interpretation, which means it's a different dialect? How do you? That's another question. You know what? I'm like all over the place. So I'm just gonna go back to my original question. We're in, we're in. What do you suggest? What would you suggest to somebody who has a lower resource language like Hindu or Swahili or something like that? To what extent would you advise us to use it? And if we do, what precaution would you advise us as far as using it? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I do want to talk about the dialect, but I am curious when you when you typically prepare your glossary, what resources do you rely on? Do you find information you need available on Google with not too much trouble? Google or whatever other search engine you use?
What I do is I first try to translate it with, say, ChatGPT, whatever resource I can find online. Sometimes AWS does a good job. Have you ever used AWS? Yes, I do. I sometimes use AWS, and then the words that do not translate, I look up the official dictionary for, Philippine government. It's called, well, never mind. Nobody would understand it. It's in Tagalog, but it's an official dictionary. If I still don't find a word, and I know that they have not translated it, I will look up the definition in English and come up to the closest that I can find if there's something. If not, then in a manner of speaking, I will try to define it very quickly so that it makes sense. That's my work around it. So I don't know, how do you do it in Chinese, if I may ask?
Yeah, no, I mean, even though, like you said, Chinese is a high resource language, I do still come across terms that, I can't get a simple straight answer with either ChatGPT or a simple Google search, right? And I do exactly the same thing that you did. I look at my paper dictionaries, I look at published dictionaries, online, by the government or by a publisher. Obviously that is limited to what information is there outlined. But I would say, again, information that's information that may not be available online, right? You certainly can use ChatGPT, at least right now. It doesn't read books yet. But even with information available online, it may not access it, right? Because of the time it has to generate the answer, or because, how it's trained. So yeah, unfortunately, you still need to do a little more legwork with the more difficult terminology. But I hope, at least for for your language, there is some information out there. Since sounds like you use CAT tools, so machine translation is already built, right? So it should be able to access some of the information that is available in machine translation engines, right? Hence, it will be able to it will be accessible to training for these AI tools. So let me know as you're playing with it, though. Let me know what you find.
I'd like to hear
Whereas
about, the dialect part, which is
Yes.
audio. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so when I was thinking about that, I was more thinking about, sort of expressions, different word choices. So for my purpose, I do interpret for patent infringement cases out of Taiwan or related to Taiwanese companies. So if you're Chinese interpreters, you certainly would know this, but for those of you who are not, we do share the same or similar writing system. Different characters, different character systems, but the writing system is similar. But in terms of certain expressions, verbal expressions, colloquial expressions, and also even when it comes to certain terms, whether it's technical or daily life, there are differences. So that's actually a good place. ChatGPT is actually a good place for that. When I'm working late at night, when my Taiwanese colleagues are not available to answer my questions, in my group chat with the CLD, that is the Chinese Language Division of the ATA, then I just ask ChatGPT, hey, what is the idiomatic expression for this equivalent in Taiwanese, or what does it mean in Taiwanese to say, or Taiwanese Chinese to say this, right? And it will give me the explanation, the context. I can even ask, can you show me examples where expression X is used for Taiwanese people? So remember, these AI tools are large language models, LLMs, large language models. They're trained on different languages. They are going to know, Taiwanese Chinese a lot better than I do. So now, if I have the time, I would probably still verify it with my Taiwanese colleague. But so far, the information I gotten was pretty accurate. I remember there was one time I needed to check a term to determine whether it's unemployed or currently not employed. or not employed right now, but may look for jobs again in the future or something like that. I needed to understand like exactly that term in Taiwanese Chinese, what it means in English. So this was way back when, before ChatGPT 4. I actually used Bing, and to give me the resource to the sources where the answers came from. And the sources, I can double check and see they are credible, they're reliable. And I decided, well, the information that was provided must be accurate. And turns out they were. So there you go.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, that's a really good insight into it, and specifically the cat tools. I don't use a lot of cat tools, but now that you brought it up, that's probably where I should look back into. Thank you so much. That's very helpful.
No problem.
Jianlu,
Yes.
a question. So when I am in OpenAI, and in my account, there is a function customize ChatGPT. And when I click it, it asks me for instructions. What would you like GTP to know about you to provide better responses? What exactly is this function, how useful it is, and what information is recommended to provide, and how it will improve anything?
Thank you for that. I have noticed that too. I haven't tried it myself. Now I'm interested in trying it too. But let's see. There's some, click on it. There you go. So if you click on the text box here, I'll show you. So I think it's worth playing with. For work or for pleasure, when you want to use ChatGPT. If you click on the chat box, the text box here, you see on the right-hand side, thought starters, right? So these are things that you can tell ChatGPT, right? You can tell it. So especially if you want to try to use ChatGPT as a companion AI, as I would call it, right? To be sort of have a friend almost. I think this is very useful. That's at least my initial thought when I discovered this. I think in terms of work, I thought about just typing in basically I am a legal interpreter working with English and Chinese. So for one, I think that would eliminate the problem of sometimes seeing pinyin, which is the Romanized letters of the Chinese characters in my answers, because I don't need it. I can read Chinese. Fortunately, GPT has learned through my past searches because I've used it so much. But I think Gemini is yet to understand that. So if you're new to ChatGPT, it may help to tell ChatGPT that you are bilingual if you're a Chinese speaker, and that this is what you do. And these are the tasks that you are looking for. Another one that I thought about playing is I'm just going to say I am a patent lawyer. Now I'm not, obviously, but I wonder if it may give me answers better suited to prepare for patent cases if I do that a lot, right? With previous generations, I have actually included in my prompt answer this question or do this task as if I am a patent lawyer. It didn't help much, but I wonder what the newer iteration of ChatGPT 4 might do. So that's something I want to test. Obviously, if you want to try it out with your young kids, like I did, you can say, I am a 2-year-old, 5-year-old, right? And it will customize the answers based on what the information they provided. So play with it. It doesn't have to be real. But play with it. Make it a tool to help you get information that you want. But do remember, turn it off or delete it if you want to switch your persona from a 5-year-old boy to a working legal interpreter.
Right. Which should be the enable for new chats button, right? Like if you Yeah, at the very end, at the very bottom of that window that you just, I think, closed,
Yes, so
there
yeah,
was like
bottom left
enable
and,
for new chats. So
um,
like if you were to change this
oh, yes,
customization but like for every case, you would have to delete somehow these responses and start over, right?
correct. Yeah, you either change it or just, disable
Uh-huh.
it. Yeah, you can do that, certainly.
Okay. Mhm. Interesting.
Thank you. I
Thank
love it.
you.
I love how you're already exploring it.
Definitely a lot to explore, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed this, information field and also very hands-on
Yeah,
webinar. And
it's pretty cool. Yes.
yes. And just, keep exploring, keep playing around, and you'll find very interesting things that you can do with ChatGPT and other. Well,
Mhm.
Gemini, I have never tried the others. I've been just playing around with ChatGPT so far. And I just think, Ken-Lu, thank you so much. I enjoyed it completely. I'm definitely gonna attend another one that you're gonna give.
Yeah, absolutely.
to
you.
Chinese division. So Ken-Lu
Mhm.
will share with the ATA
Mhm.
Chinese division. Same topic.
Who knows, from now till then, which is going to be 2 weeks from now, there may be new things that I need to add and
Yeah,
more
yeah.
tasks that it's capable of.
Mhm.
Before we close, I do want to share real quick the let's see, is anybody still here who works on patents or just federal cases?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a few. All right. So if you have not heard of Court Listener, you are missing out big. So Court Listener is essentially, you can think about it as a database of Pacer. So if you use Pacer to look up cases in the past, and you may have found that one is very difficult. It's not a very good UI, right? Not a great user interface because it's government set up and it's really old. Also, you constantly need to pay for the page number of pages you download. It's not a lot, but still, it shows up, and if you search a lot, you do end up paying. So Court Listener is great because you can actually, just like on Pacer, you can search your cases here.
Huh.
So let's do what we did earlier. Case and correct. Okay. And you can find the cases just like on Pacer, except you actually get a pretty good overlook in the search. And if you go in, again, without paying, you can actually see all the dockets or the docket here. You can reorganize it, or you can organize it or organize it in descending order where you can find the most recent filing, and simple click on the parties and attorneys right here. But the most important thing is it will ask you, once you register for a free account, it will ask you, or it will recommend to you that you install a browser extension. Do it, because then if anybody else out there who is also using Court Listener, who has reviewed the same case and who has downloaded the documents, instead of buying on Pacer, this button will become download PDF, which means it's free to download. And for any document you've downloaded, if you've paid, it is free on Pacer, the 12 cents or whatever. Once you've downloaded the documents, for somebody else who are looking at the same case, it will also show up as a free download, so completely actually free. On top of that, you can see a pretty good summary of, the case here already. So you can actually decide whether you want to go into Pacer or not to buy it. Obviously, if it's not available already, you can, go on Pacer, just click that button and you are on Pacer, which you know already. And Another great feature is you can get alerts on a particular case, right? If this is a case you're watching, you're working on, you want to mark it towards the attorney, right? You can set yourself the alert here. You can also add notes. So this could be a great resource if you work for federal cases or work on federal cases a lot. Court listener.
And you said
Cool,
it's
thank you.
for federal cases only, or also for state court?
For federal cases only.
Okay.
It does include bankruptcy court too, if that's of interest to anyone. I'll type that link to the chat, our chat here. And then that's pretty much it. Oh, sorry. One more thing here to share. And Misha, am I right that we have until 4 o'clock?
Yes,
We're not over. Okay, great.
I set it for 2 hours.
So the court listener, AutoHotkey. This is another useful tool in conjunction with your AI tool or just on its own. Essentially, you can set up a hotkey or sort of a shortcut with a short phrase, and a complete sentence or a complete phrase will be generated automatically for Windows computers. So if you have found useful prompts for your AI tools, you can program them onto your computer so that you can generate a long prompt with a few simple clicks. For example, AHK for AutoHotkey, right? And that way you don't have to type or copy and paste the same prompt for every case you prepare. So once you've found your prompts, program them with AutoHotkey. If you want to read more, there's a nice article by Nora Diaz on the ATA Chronicle, which is accessible on the internet, or maybe ask ChatGPT to find it for you. So you can learn how to do that as well. And I'll just share my contact information here as well. If you want to stay in touch, please do. If you have additional user cases you want to share with me, or new prompts that you've worked on that you've perfected, or complaints or questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. And if you're on Duolingo, I'm learning Japanese and Spanish there. If you're Duolingo, find me, follow me, and so we can do some friend quests together.
I'm learning Spanish there too.
Oh, great. Please find me. I've noticed after my ATA presentation, I got a few more friends, and now I get extra energized whenever I want to take it easy, because I see, like somebody else who I know, or probably somebody who knows me is doing it's learning their Spanish today, so I gotta catch up, right? These colleagues are my colleagues are my fellow language lovers. All right.
Okay, any comments or questions? And for is it the hot auto key, right? I think that we actually have, was it a couple years ago, we have a Shikata webinar. Is it right? By Nora Diaz? Yeah, she gave us, is it almost a half day or a whole day?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was Nora Diaz.
Yes.
Yes, a couple years ago.
I remember
You're
that.
right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yep,
Yes,
I remember too.
that's right.
Nora's very tech savvy, so if that's available on recording, I would say
Yes.
definitely look it up. Yeah, and I think she's actually hosting different sort of camps, tech camps on AI tools, as well as other many of the other great technologies that she's discovered and practiced with. So if you are interested in learning more about AI, or just again how to work smarter, definitely be on the lookout for her new webinars and events.
I just saw online, I was looking at Court Listener, and evidently Google Scholar also has state cases as well. If you want to,
Oh,
there's evidently some sort of case law button you can push, and you can access a bunch of state and federal cases.
good to know.
Haven't tried it or anything. I just noticed that.
Google Scholar, okay.
Great resource to share.
It was because there's this guides.loc.gov, and then it has like free case law, and then it says it gives you different, there's Justitia and Find Law and Case Law Access Project and all kinds of things. I'll put up the link up in the chat.
So I see it's looks like it's mostly appellate court and superior
Maybe.
court. And I guess that makes sense if somebody's trying to do legal research. It's Google Scholar.
Question. I'm just tired
Yes.
of typing it, so can I ask? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just do you offer certificate courses? Actually, Nora Diaz is offering something right now. It's like multi-days course similar to this, and you get a certificate. So do you or some other people that you know offer certificate courses like that?
Yeah, Nora is the only one that I know of. She has certainly invested a lot of time and efforts in this. So if you're interested in a full-on immersion experience, definitely go take a look at her website. I don't personally teaching is sort of my hobby. I enjoy teaching, you know, whether it's language or interpretation. But majority of my time I spend on actually interpreting and do some translation as well. Maybe one day, but it's just, it changes so fast, right? Yeah. So maybe one day when my kids are older.
Kenlu, could I ask, you mentioned about AI hallucinating. What do you think is happening when it's hallucinating? What's going on, do you think?
I am not an expert actually of AI. I'm not an expert of anything really. But I'm not an expert of AI or especially generative AI. So I don't know for sure. From what I've read, it used to be a more prominent problem when with earlier versions of GPT, especially. I think the later versions are a lot better. I would assume it's some sort of trade secret how they accomplished that and what they did. But I wouldn't know for sure. Maybe we can ask ChatGPT.
What I've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah,
about that,
right.
yeah. What I've seen about it is it's because it's large language models. They're not generative AI. They are not generalized AI. They're just predictors, text predictors. Now, I don't understand how that ties in with how they can summarize. That confuses me, but that's what I've heard. They're basically like text completion, only super advanced. That's just what I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that
Interesting. Go ahead, Tianlu.
yeah, I think that's definitely the the reason why one of the reasons with the earlier generations. But like I said, I don't know what they've done, but they have done quite well for my purposes. I still see even though it's large language model, and while I'm teaching Chinese, I'm also playing with it to see if it can actually be replacing me so that my students have a free tutor. So far, not so much, at least with Chinese when it comes to, recognizing idiomatic expression. It is still failing, or maybe not even idiomatic expression, just like whether it's idiomatic to say something. It doesn't always give me the correct answer or the answers that I know to be true. So yeah.
Okay, I guess it's the perfect time to end for today. But just keep the dialogue, going. I think that we'll have a lot more to try and to experience. Thank you, Tianlu, again. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience. We definitely learn a lot, and definitely, get us hungry and thirsty to try it, to play around it. And thank you all for your participation and questions. Let me know if you have any questions, and feel free to reach out to Tianlu. She generously share with us her contact information. And then if you have any comments or have any questions or anything, or you want to learn language with her, team up or challenge her, feel free. Okay, thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Have a great
You.
weekend.
Thank you too.
Have a
Thank you.
great
Sorry,
weekend.
Misha,
Thank
before
you,
we leave, could
Tianlu.
we take a group photo together?
Oh, sure, let's do
Don't
that.
mind
Yes,
for my social media.
That's our
Sure.
CLD tradition.
That's
I
right.
should adjust so we can see Chicada logo.
Yeah,
See,
look
I
at it.
figure out how to
You
share
figured it
Chicada.
out.
Yes.
Did it.
Looks good.
All right. Okay.
All right, you're in the right
That should
spot. All
work.
right, thank y'all.
Thanks.
You. Okay, take care.
Okay. Bye. You got it, Tianlu?
Bye.
You got it?
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.